Good evening, everybody. DM here from That Wrestling Show. It has been a long time since anyone has heard from me. There has been so much stuff going on over the past, bunch of months since I've been gone from the interwebs. Work has been absolutely insane. There have been things going on, mainly in my personal life that I've had to take care of. And, well, to be honest, I just haven't had a lot of time to get back into the swing of things. However, it was the summer of superhero movies, to say the least. Unfortunately, I was unable to do a Avengers review, mainly because by the time I got to a review, you people have pretty much heard all of it. So I'm going to do something that, well, probably hasn't really been done on YouTube yet, or at least by the time I post it, there'll probably be about 50 or 60 reviews. But I will not steer you wrong. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, and I'm not going to basically down the movie or praise the movie. I'm going to be 100% honest. Went and saw the midnight screening of The Amazing Spider-Man. This is, for all intents and purposes, a reboot. We all knew it was going to be a reboot. And, I had not doubts going into the movie. I more so had expectations. I had the same expectations when I went to see the Avengers, and I said, it's going to be completely an Iron Man movie. What I mean by an Iron Man movie, he's going to be the star of the show, and apparently he wasn't the star of the show. There were so many other characters that fulfilled perfectly in that movie. Anywho, I'm ranting. The Amazing Spider-Man, the midnight release. Not a lot of people packed in as much as I, thought that it would be. Which, to me, made the seats easier to get, but I guess it was kind of a weird, date to do it. Midnight, maybe tomorrow the place is going to be packed, but yep. I think it's only fitting that we discuss the cast and how they were chosen, or at least who they chose to play the roles. We had Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. Such a mirror dichotomy from Tobey Maguire, whereas Tobey Maguire was more of that, that geeky nerd that everyone knows. Andrew Garfield played Parker as more of a snarky, kind of an outcast. He's not a nerd per se, because he wears contact lenses, and which is something I kind of went, hey, Parker's supposed to wear glasses, But, he actually did a really good job with the Peter Parker character. Parker in the comic book is very socially awkward. He's very timid. He's very he's for all intents and purposes, he's a nerd. And he played this to a T. There are certain instances where he's talking to Gwen, and just the interaction between the two of them, just the way he moves, the way he talks, the way he kind of carries himself, it was very interesting. And I think he did a pretty good job playing this role as Spider-Man. He's more snarky in this one. I don't think he got as many lines as Spider-Man, mainly because we're so used to Tobey Maguire now, who of course did a pretty good job as Spider-Man as well, because we're all used to that. This is pretty much going from Val Kilmer from Batman from Michael Keaton. There's a totally different way to look at it, and both of them are really good in playing their role. This was more of an update, more of a reboot, more of a, for my money, they're both 50-50, but I think this particular version of Spider-Man Peter Parker was more on the money, at least the way I look at it. We then had Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, and, well, to be honest, they did a really good job with makeup and her dialogue and everything, because everything that Emma Stone did in the movie as Gwen Stacy was pretty damn spot on. I really enjoyed the character. She got a lot of screen time in this movie. I was a bit surprised. But then again, the damsel in distress always does. Not really much of a damsel, believe it or not, in this movie. I know in the other three Spider-Man movies was always Mary Jane, but this one's actually not much of a damsel. She's more of an ally, if anything, in this movie. Not really I got little problems with the whole Gwen Stacy character. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I know what's going to end up happening pretty soon if they go that route, so I wouldn't get too used to her. We then get Rhys Ifans as Dr. Kurt Connors. He plays the Lizard. Again, no problems with the character. I was never a Lizard fan, to be honest. I was kind of hoping that they would do more of a reptilian look as opposed to the route they went. They kind of went with more of a like a reptile from Mortal Kombat kind of look, where he's more humanized. He's got more of a humanized face than he does a more of a reptilian lizard alligator kind of a face. But I forgive him for it. I understand that everything can't be perfect, and again, I really had no problems with the character. Very interesting the route they went with it. Pretty interesting how it all comes about, and the whole Peter Parker, Kurt Connors link, and again, very, very interesting the way that went. Dennis Leary as Captain George Stacy. Again, I can't ruin it for you, but he does a pretty good job, to say the least. Martin Sheen as Ben Parker. That, of course, is Uncle Ben. Through the whole movie, I'm sitting there going, I know who this is, and I can't put my finger on it, and of course it was Martin Sheen. Totally different from the other Uncle Ben. This one's got more balls to him. He's more of a Peter Parker screws up, he'll just give it right to him. I kind of like this version a little bit better. He's not meek and full of wisdom. He's more of a grindhouse kind of character. Not bad casting, though, for Ben Parker. I actually kind of enjoyed it. Sally Field as Aunt May. Okay, this was tough for me. Mainly because Aunt May is kind of an elderly woman, and I know Sally Field is getting up there in years, but she didn't look old, per se. She still had her youth. She didn't get a whole lot of lines in the movie, unlike the other Aunt May from the other three movies. But again, it's an origin storyline, so of course they're not going to have every character, have massive dialogue. I think Sally Field did a pretty good job with the Aunt May character, and if she returns for the next couple of movies that they'll be doing, then I'm pretty much on board. We also had two other little minor characters. Irfan Khan as Dr. Rajat Rafa. Okay, he's basically your... how can I basically put it? He was an alright. He was a kind of a filler character. He was the go-between between Norman Osborn and Doc Connors. You really can't say much about him. He's a filler character. And we had Chris Zilka as Flash Thompson. Everyone knows who Flash Thompson is, the big guy on campus that Spidey tends to kind of butt heads with in school and all that, blah, 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 blah. That's pretty much the cast. Now, the entire story as a whole, the entire look as a whole, well, let's start with the look. I didn't see it in 3D. I saw it in 2D because I'm not spending extra money to see it in 3D because I have to wear glasses as it is to see a movie, so I'm not going to wear glasses to wear glasses. You can kind of see the problem with that. Mark Webb directed the movie. The movie's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. There's one special ending at the ending, but of all things. The movie's basically an origin storyline, but with this particular origin storyline, they delve more into the spider characteristics than they do in the other ones, whereas it was he gets bit, he's able to shoot web, he flies around, blah, 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 he figures all that out. In this particular movie, they tweak a couple of things. He does get bit, he kind of figures out he's a spider, or has the spider capabilities. It shows his mental capacity and how he's able to figure out calculated formulas because he's kind of a biochemist. They show you exactly what the webbing is made out of. It's not just web, it's some kind of filament, polymer, super steel type of material, which I thought was kind of cool, actually, how they explain why the damn web is so friggin' strong. How he got the costume, which is slightly different from the comic and from the animated series and from everything else, but it's a different twist. I'm not going to say anything bad about it. I just kind of wish they would have used Arachnaman. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to give it away. The costume itself, it's more correct than the other Spider-Man film. The other Spider-Man film was just a basic costume, and it was red and blue. This was more red, blue, black with like sequences and patterns. You could literally see that it's made out of spandex, and I think that's kind of the route they were trying to go. Really interesting how they did the whole costume, and even the eyes are different. I love how they even showed you how he came up with the eyes and how he did the costume. It was it's you have the original Spider-Man trilogy and this one. This is a reboot. The route they went with this one, I think, is slightly better than the other one, but the other one is just superhero movie, get it out the door, and it made billions of dollars. As I said earlier, it is an origin storyline, but they delve quite a bit into the Peter Parker character. It isn't just he lives with his aunt and uncle, there's a girl next door, which isn't really true, but there's a girl next door, this is my story. This is more of a you live it as he does. It's not a narrative, it's just this is the story. Here you go. A lot of unique angles that they did in this movie. A lot of POV with Spider-Man. And what they really focus on is he moves more like a spider in this one. He's more of an arachnid. There's this little scene where he builds this massive web, and he listens to the vibrations. He's more arachnid-like in this movie, which is, for all intents and purposes, like Spider-Man, whereas the other one, he was more like a luchador, to say the least. More of a acrobat, which I had no problem with. But the only time you got to see Spider-Man do the odd poses was in the air. Whereas in this particular film, he bent and twisted and contorted in all sorts of ways just from standing up. The main story, of course, is Spider-Man versus the Lizard. Spider-Man is the reason why Lizard exists, because he gave him the formula to create blah, 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 blah. There's a little backstory with Oscorp, and there's hints that he might return in the second one, if there is. But we'll get to that later. Overall, I can't give away anything, but for a reboot, for a Spider-Man movie, I think, for my money. Now, don't go thinking it's going to be action-packed, because I think there's only 3 or 4 action scenes, which isn't a whole lot in a Spider-Man movie, especially since the last ones were massively action-packed. This one was more of, again, an origin story. It built. It was more story. Spider-Man and Gwen just built on this kinship, on this relationship. It was kind of strong, to be honest. They were trying to push that. Overall, I'm ranting here. Overall, the way they went about the whole Lizard transformation, the Spider-Man fight, Spider-Man gets fucked up in this movie. He gets fucked up bad in this movie. Unlike Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, where he just got his mask blown off, this one gets fucked up. Worse than how bad he got fucked up in Spider-Man 3. I'm saying that right now. He got fucked up. That's all I can say about that. He's fighting a giant goddamn lizard. Did you think it was going to be a couple of scratches? Oh no, he gets all sorts of busted up. The Amazing Spider-Man, for my money, I'll give it, and I'm being honest, I'll give it 8 out of 10 stars. Why 8 out of 10? Not because I'm nitpicking, but I think there could have been some more action. I think there could have been more of a snarky Spider-Man. I think in the first Spider-Man trilogy, it was more Peter Parker and more Spider-Man, whereas this one was more Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. It was an origin storyline, but Spidey wasn't as snarky as you'd like him to be. There were little glimpses of it, little hints and little, things that they did throughout the movie, but it was more he's becoming a superhero, and I'm sure the sequel is going to be probably better. Sequels tend to be. I don't know what the hell's up with Marvel recently, but it seems like every superhero movie that they put out, they are hitting it out of the ballpark, with the exception of the Hulk. I never really cared for the Hulk. So far, this is second place behind the Avengers, and I can't believe I'm saying that because Spider-Man's my favorite comic book character. Right behind him is Captain America. Overall, this was worth the money. If you're looking for an action-packed explosions and all that sort of stuff, go see The Avengers. This is more going to have an origin storyline, more storytelling, more building the character. It's a different look, it's a different feel, and to be 100% honest, what was very interesting about this film is in the original trilogy, you'd have one set color and Spider-Man kind of blended in the background. This was more, the background was dark and Spider-Man stood out. It felt like an actual, more realistic Spider-Man movie. It was, I can't say flawless because there were things that, again, I can't give away, but there are certain things that I nitpicked at, mainly because that's just my own preference. If you are a big Spider-Man fan, I'm sure you'll know some of the instances I'm talking about. There is no surprise ending at the very end of the credits, just at the end of the ending credits, I should say. There will most likely be a sequel, and now everyone's kind of trying to figure out who it is. Overall, 8 out of 10 stars. Go see it. Go check it out. It's not a bad reboot. It's not a bad movie. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I will say this. People are now starting to talk about Dark Knight, and I hope Dark Knight pulls something out, because with Avengers, Marvel is on a roll. That is all I can say. And that's going to do it all for my review of The Amazing Spider-Man. Go check it out. Go see it. Don't expect a whole lot. Don't expect Avengers awesome. Just expect awesome. It was, again, a pretty good flick. It was worth the money. Just don't expect it to knock it out of the ballpark. It was a good, decent pace. It built everything up, and you'll walk out going, huh, that was actually pretty good.